Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm David Krueger. I am the creator's apprentice, bringing you all of the lessons I've learned from inside the industry, working with Kevin Trudeau and the Global Information Network for the last 5 years. This week, we have a very special guest. With me is Rex Sikes. Rex has been in the self-help industry for decades. He has worked with many clients. He has worked in NLP. He has done a lot with spiritual work and meditation, just like Kevin, and he is a longtime friend of Kevin Trudeau. I had the privilege of getting to know Rex last year, and he has graciously agreed to appear on our show. Rex, thank
I'm
you for
so
being here.
honored, David, that you invited me to talk with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you are my first, and this is a very new YouTube channel, Rex. You are officially my first guest. You will go down in history. So if I'm Joe Rogan one day, we're going to show flashbacks to this interview,
I
my
told you
first
I'm honored
interview.
and it's a privilege.
So
Thank you. And to be the first.
thank first, yes, the first of many. I'm starting to line them up now because people don't want to just listen to me talk all the time. They want interesting folks like you that they can learn from and get new perspectives on. So many of us we're struggling and learning so hard to improve our lives. And you know what Kevin provides through all of his channels. But it's so nice to sometimes hear the same thing from other perspectives because it hits the brain a little bit differently. So Rex, tell us about yourself a little bit. Who is
I'm
Rex
just an
Sikes?
ordinary guy. I'm just a schlep, really. And when I was little, my parents put me in acting classes when I was about 2, 3, 4 years old. They gave me dancing lessons and acrobatics and acting lessons to round me out. So I wanted to be an actor. But by the time I was about 6 years old, I said to my mom one day, I said, I want you to read me some of these books we got around the house because I was raised Catholic and we would go, and that time the masses were in Latin and there was incense and couldn't understand a word that anybody said. But I figured that this guy had a connection with somebody upstairs and I wanted to have that same connection. So my mom started reading me books like Think and Grow Rich and the Bhagavad Gita and different books when I was 6. And I continued that practice all of my life.
Wow.
So I've read Think and Grow Rich almost every day of my life. It's an amazing thing, and other books as well. But I have accomplished both. I've become a mystic and I've become an actor. So
Well, let's talk a little bit first about becoming an actor. I mean, how did you get into acting? And because these are like different life paths.
acting was an outlet for me. It was a use of the imagination. It was being able to experience what it would be like, say, to be a spy or a doctor or whatever it might be, an Amazon explorer as a young kid. I joined the Screen Actors Guild when I was about 18 years old. So I've been in the Screen Actors Guild for 50 some years. I love it. And one of the things about it that I really love, just like professional speaking, is I love to be able to be on my feet in a situation where I'm not sure what's going to happen. I might have a script or I may not have a script, but anything that could go wrong, and I have to figure out how not to make that when I'm doing a scene. You have to rely on the director to cut. You're not really supposed to cut yourself because they might be loving it and
Mhm.
you might be hating it. So it's learning to give up that
Okay.
control at the same time to use your imagination to be able to express yourself and to allow that flow to happen.
Mhm.
And then anything that could happen could happen. So it's an adventure. I love it. It's an amazing occupation and a hobby and a passion.
Okay. So that was the draw to acting. Were you in LA? Did you relocate there?
I eventually moved to Hollywood. I wasn't born in Hollywood, no, but I've been acting since 4 years old was my first acting class.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
The mystic in you. This is the thing that I think a lot of my viewers are going to be very interested in because a lot of us are very spiritual and we seek a level of fulfillment, beyond the physical and something deeply spiritual, but we feel like we have to go pursue money. We feel like we have to get things done in the real world.
So yeah, no.
Um, and you used one particular word, I think, when we were going back and forth. You said like transmission, the transmission between people. What does that word mean to you in a spiritual
Wow,
sense?
this is so rich and so full that it's a joyful opportunity to answer that question. The issue for most people is that they're feeling lack or they're feeling empty, whether it's money, excuse me, money, love, health, a sense of adventure, career, whatever it may be. They feel needy or they want more, and that's okay. We're creatures of wanting more. We progress, we evolve, and so that's all part of being human. The issue for a lot of people, though, is that they get stuck in the neediness. They get stuck in wanting and trying to make things happen so very hard. I like to point out that there's no such thing as abundance. Abundance means an amount. You can have an abundance of money or you can have an abundance of poverty, but abundance isn't anything. It's prosperity or poverty. I mean,
Okay.
and most people
Okay.
aren't ready for prosperity because they're too caught up in the needs. They're not having a joyous life. They're not living a fulfilled life. They don't have the right mindset or heart set or attitude toward it. And so they miss it constantly. And to me, what spirituality is all about is becoming a whole person, a healed person, a person who lives from the abundance of love and of generosity and of prosperity and of all these different things, whether it's health or compassion. So my life, I'll segue in this way, my life has been a pursuit really of like quantum physics. Now it's very popular. Back when we started studying this physics in the 70s, essentially, with people like Isaac Bentop and others. Not that many people knew about it. You know, it's just this kind of weird thing. Same thing with spirituality. I lived with Rajneesh, or who now people know as Osho. I lived with Muktananda. I spent time with Krishnamurti and a lot of different people. And what I discovered for myself was it had people always say, "Why were you with these gurus?" I go, "It wasn't that I was with the gurus; it's that the gurus were with me. I just happened to be in the same place they were, and in that presence, magic can happen." And the same thing happens between people when they're holding hands in a movie theater or on a park bench. There's a transmission
Yeah.
of energy, of love, of a feeling that goes between them. And what spirituality and growth is all about is that transmission and being able to connect in that way with others.
You know, Rex, each one of those gurus could be a podcast episode just
Right.
asking you about your experiences with them. You know, but and what I think you were saying, what I got from what you just said, and this is such a key concept, and it's something that many of us struggle with. It's something that I have struggled with, is that what I think I'm hearing you say, and what I've heard Kevin say in so many words, and what I've heard other gurus say, it's like, as so within, so without. You must first be the thing before you can have the thing. And I think that the trouble that so many of us get into, and so many people who are going to be watching this video, this podcast, is that we want the thing and we feel that once we get the thing, then we'll be okay. Then we'll be happy. Then we'll be fulfilled. Once I have the money in my bank account, then, oh, then I'll be as enlightened as I want to be because I won't have to worry about paying these bills and I won't have all the stress. And it
No,
doesn't
well,
work
think
that way,
about it.
does it?
If then is a cause and effect statement. If this happens, then I'll be happy. This causes that. And the question I would have is, how do you know if that causes that? You know, it's certainly there's
Okay.
assumptions that are being made that if I get this, then this will happen. If you get that, then that might not happen. Might something else will happen. It's what you hope. What it's telling you is I don't have it because it's
Yeah.
if I have it. And so
Hmm.
what people aren't ready for money because they aren't filled with the joy of life. There are people around the world right now, David, who are happy with absolutely nothing. They live joyously and they
Yeah.
haven't dirt to rub together. And then there are people who have everything they could conceivably imagine and they're miserable. So what's the
Yes.
difference?
Yes. And I know
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
known both types of people. You know, and I have to admit to a bit having been confused, you know, by the person who's happy with nothing. It's like, God bless you, you're so much fun. You know, and it's like you just love it, and they have nothing, and they're just and they live nowhere, and they're like a nomad, and they're just some. I've got friends with no permanent addresses, and they're some of the happiest people I know.
Well,
And I've known some people with a lot of money
well,
who aren't very nice.
and there are poor people who aren't nice, and there are rich people who are fabulous.
Yes, and everywhere and
But
everything in
that is,
between. And
I was
and
going to say, go ahead.
And no, and yeah, it's just trying to find the way to, I think like, 'cause like so many seekers, looking for, my own way because I want to be fulfilled. I want to be happy in the moment all the time. I would also like to have a few things. I wouldn't mind the Mercedes, Rex. I'm not going to lie. But again, I know that it's not going to be the thing that makes me
Oh,
fulfilled or happy either. But so it's like finding that magic nut of, you know what I mean? Of being filled and happy and joyous
there
and
are so few
creating.
things in life that keep their luster. Things tarnish. I can remember going, "Oh, if I only had this toy, if I go," and then a year later, or months later, it was like, "Oh yeah, that toy, whatever. I want another one." And this is the problem that people have, is that they don't understand that in order to get money, you need to be is in order to plant vegetables, you need to prepare the soil. And the soil might have things in it that shouldn't be there, but it also needs to have things that should be there, like needs to have the proper fertilization, the proper materials to sustain life.
Yeah.
And so people are chasing money, or they're chasing love, or they're chasing adventure or career or business or home or whatever, without being prepared for it, without being the person who's ready to receive it, who for that person it's already theirs because they deserve it. And it's not, I deserve it, damn it. It's mine. It's mine. I deserve all good things because I'm on this planet. The problem is competition. It's chasing. Like people follow me.
Mhm.
I don't,
Mhm.
I don't seek them. I don't want them to follow me. And so what happens,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
that
Looking for anybody to follow
relationship
you.
partner is that I want that person, and then they didn't want anything to do with you,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and you wanted them that much more.
Yep. Yep.
It's
I've been
like
there.
I'm not
Yeah.
looking to create a following. To me, the thing is, a few people. That's where the transmission happens. It's between the connection of people where the energy is such that magic can happen. I'd rather sit in silence with people than to do things to people,
Mhm.
which is what they all expect because of neurolinguistic programming or hypnosis or these other things. Is
You did say that you would rather meditate with someone than do anything to them.
Yeah,
Could you
because
go into that a little?
people think of meditating, they think of chanting, they think of performing some kind of repetitive ritual, watching their breathing or whatever. Those are the preparatory stages or steps to get to meditating. It's like some people can dance with such abandon that they become the dance, and they just fluid and they move, and there's no thought, there's no commentary, there's no criticism, there's just the joy of the dance. That's meditating. That's what meditation is. And so what happens is people say, I'm doing vipassana, or I'm doing this form of meditation, or I'm doing that form of meditation, when what they're doing is they're trying to get to the meditation state. So I'd rather just sit with people in silence and allow that energy to arise between us, because it's a communion in which there's communication, and it's energetic, sure, but it doesn't require you chase anything or do anything. And that's not the,
I don't have to do the fluidic dance
well,
either. I
yeah,
could
you
just
can. I
sit
mean,
and
see,
I could, but
well,
I could
yes, you
just sit in
can. I mean,
silence and
one of
commune
my
and
favorite things to do
that.
is just sit in nature and listen to the wind and to just allow what's going on. And if you listen, you'll notice that all the trees have a different song to sing, based on how the leaves chatter inside when it blows, whether they're large leaves or tiny.
Yeah.
Everything is happening simultaneously. When you're sitting in nature, for example, a dog is barking, there's a car going, a plane's happening, people are yelling, children are playing, you're sitting silently, and then some people are thinking, oh my God, why don't they just shut up? And I'm like, that's part of the process. That's how much fun it is. If people have this notion that if I go to the mountain, if I go to the ashram, if I go somewhere and meditate, then I'll come back and everything will be okay. And that's not true. You need to learn to meditate in the marketplace, right where you're at. You need to live with everything going on around you, which is why in my books and the things that I talk about, I say you have to celebrate everything. You celebrate it being a problem, you're celebrating it being a solution, you celebrate having it, you celebrate not having it. If you think of something as a problem, it's going to be a problem. If you think of something as a joy, it'll be a joy. If you understand that it can be, and that everything is an opportunity. And most people, yeah,
Celebrate
most people
everything.
think this sucks.
And
That's
that's
why I said I love being an actor where I'm on stage or I'm speaking in front of, it could be 5 people or 50,000 people, and everything goes wrong because I have to live.
yeah.
That's what life is all about. Life isn't just always good.
Yeah.
If it were, we wouldn't have any entertainment whatsoever. There wouldn't be music because nothing would change. We wouldn't have movies because nothing would change. There wouldn't
Yeah.
be a book to read because nothing would
Yeah.
change. People go, if my life were only this way, life is what life is, and you get to participate in it, you and I.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a little bit of acting and writing myself in Hollywood. And one of the key when you're writing a screenplay, a teleplay, I mean, one of the key tenets of that is the conflict between the characters. Without the conflict, you have no story.
Right.
Literally conflict.
And
You
that
must have
conflict could be
conflict.
between the characters
Yeah.
or internally to one character, something I want and I can't get from
Sure.
myself or from another person, or something they have that I want to get from them and they don't want to give it up. Or no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great point.
Exactly. And then and the more layered the conflict, the more interesting the story. Before we move on, I want to talk
sure.
about you and Kevin in a minute. But before we move on to that, because this has been so great so far, somebody, what recommendation would you have for somebody who's watching this? Somebody who would love to be in that state of allowing, would love to be in that state of celebrating everything, but they're a neurotic, unhappy mess. What is the first couple of things they could do to get from here
Learn
to
how
there?
to
What
play.
recommendations do you
Have
have for
fun.
somebody?
Learn how to play.
Okay.
Don't take things so seriously. And again, that's like why acting is good, because you get to pretend to be whatever you want. And donkeys and squirrels, you can pretend. You can use your imagination, but use it to your benefit. That's the first thing. Have enough wisdom and
Okay.
good taste to treat yourself well, and get out of
Okay.
get out of your own way and play more. A funny side
Okay.
story of that is there was another gentleman and myself. He's long past, but we did things called play shops, and he actually originated the term, and I loved it. I said, I got to use that, Dave. And so we said, here's play shops, and people go, what on earth is a play shop? And we go, it's a workshop, but instead of working, you play. And they couldn't. And so we send our marketing materials, and people go, we don't get what these play shops are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great play on the word, but yeah, I'm sure it probably confused people, but it's a
But it's
much
true.
better
I
way
mean,
to
when
say
people
it.
would come to my workshops, it was
Yeah.
bathed in laughter and dancing and fun. And in the 70s and the 80s, when we were doing this, people were going, you're not taking this seriously. You're having too much fun. And I go, yeah, people are transforming. And they go, yes, but you need to be serious about this stuff. And I go, okay, but they're transforming. And they go, yes, but. And the point is, now a lot of people do that. Now you can go to any seminar and they're high-fiving and dancing and shaking things up. And it's good. But back in the early days of a lot of this, it was considered heresy to do that. The point is the more you play, the more you dance, the more fun you have, the more you breathe, and just allow the world to be as it is, and know that you can move forward positively in it. You don't have to chase it. You are. Think of it this way: if you're going down a stream on a raft, you go with wherever the stream takes you. That doesn't mean you can't steer from side to side, but it's a whole lot easier to go with the flow than it is to try and get your way back upstream.
Yeah, upstream's pretty tough.
So be like a salmon. Don't be like a salmon and try to go upstream.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I've never understood why that is a thing with salmon swimming. They're pretty tough. God bless them for doing it.
Tough.
Yeah. Yeah. Rex, I want to talk about Kevin a little bit. As my audience is largely Kevin Trudeau fans, many of them are members of the Global Information Network, and all of them are interested in improving their lives. And so I just want to take a little bit of a few minutes and talk about your relationship with him. First of all, how did you
He
and
came
Kevin
to an
meet?
event that I was putting on, and he came for the weekend or for the day or something, and we met that time. I had known him from television. I didn't know him before that, but I was delighted that he came and he showed up.
How long ago was
1991,
that?
I think.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've known Kevin for a long time.
Yeah, no, and I was very impressed with
Okay.
him then. I was like, wow, he doesn't look like anything that he does on TV. This is amazing.
Yeah, what was he like back then? He would have been like 30 something.
I thought he was
Yeah,
very
he would have been, yeah, he would have been.
charismatic and very handsome and very charming, and he was well groomed and tailored. And I consider myself Rumple Man. If I can hang out in like
Okay.
Bermuda shorts, or I've never wanted to wear a tie in my entire life or polish my shoes. So Kevin is nicely manicured, as he is to this day.
To this day, and he teaches all of us to do the same thing. I am here. This is a 4:30 in the afternoon in the office. I don't have a tie on. We're getting away without ties these days, but this is how we all have to. This is how we dress. Nobody comes in without a jacket or. Yeah, it's around like a military organization. But
It
you know
does.
what?
It
It does
absolutely
make a
does.
difference. You know, when you dress up to go to the office every day, there's a certain seriousness to it, and there's a certain it's just it's ineffable. It's just it makes a difference mentally. So I get
Well,
I
and it
absolutely
makes
get it.
it makes sense into what Kevin has been able to accomplish and to what he promotes, and
Yeah.
the success notion, and to dress for it and to look like it. With me, I had to do the opposite. I was so into how clothes made me popular, not popular when I was a young man. I had this woman say, "You're wearing all these tight
Yeah.
clothes and you're doing all these things. You need to get into Hawaiian shirts and drawstring pants." And for me, that was death. For me, that was, I was like, "No, I can't do that." And anyway, so she bought me all these clothes and said, "You're going to wear them. If you're around me, you're going to wear these clothes." And so I started to wear them, and then I decided I never wanted to take them off. It was worth it. That was comfortable. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it worked.
It worked for you. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded very comfortable. Yeah, I mean, and we all like comfort too. I will be change as soon as I get home tonight. I'm changing out of this. You know, I've had it
But
by the end of the
there's
day.
also
But
something important in all this, and that
yeah,
is that there are such things as context. And in certain contexts, like I can't go to a black tie event wearing shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, right? So
of
I
course
have
not.
to dress to be appropriate, and you want to be comfortable in that as well as being comfortable at home. So you're right.
And if I went to a Fourth of July
Yeah,
barbecue in this,
exactly.
it would be a little strange. Yeah, absolutely. You have done a lot of work in self help. You've read Napoleon Hill books since you were very young, and you have had your own seminars. And you know we've already talked about so with as within, so without. How would you, when you look at Kevin's teachings with things like your wish is your command and some of the things he's putting out, how what are the similarities and or differences from your own teachings and your own path from how does what you teach and think
Yeah,
about compare
I
to what
think it's
Kevin does?
really amazingly parallel and similar. He talks about brotherhood and secret societies and that kind of mentorship and transmission and apprenticeship. And that's the
Mhm.
same kinds of things that I've gone through with acting coaches and dancing coaches and spiritual gurus and people. It's always been about
Yeah.
a communication from one who knows to the one who doesn't know as much. And the sad thing in the world is that we have given up
Mhm.
apprenticeships.
Yeah.
It's the age of information, so everybody wants it fast and quick, but they don't want to necessarily study and be around a master and do whatever the master requires because they
Yeah.
think of it as being subservient. And that's not what the relationship is at
Mhm.
all. A true master wants you to do better
Mhm.
than the master. They want you to excel, like
Mhm.
a benevolent parent wants their children to do better than they did. So the
Yes.
goal, my goal is always to fire my clients, to fire my students so that they go on and
Mm.
live the kind of life. I've likened it to this, and that is I'm like a quarterback, not meaning the star of the team, but the guy who throws the ball or passes, gives ladder, hands the ball off to somebody else so that they can move it down
Yeah.
the field to score. Sometimes the quarterback will run it in or something like that. But the point is, it's a cooperative, collaborative kind of thing. And I think that Kevin, in what he talks about and what I talk about, they're very similar. And so much of it is learn the foundations, master the foundations. Don't try and race ahead. Just take it and then master it. And then one of the things that he uses a lot is takes 5 minutes to learn and a lifetime to master kind of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. And yet change can happen in an instant when you're prepared for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And that's exactly the sort of thing Kevin talks about and talked about to me all the time. To be a master, you must master the basics. The basics are the advanced material. Jen has levels of
Right.
training. The way we at current we have 8 levels of the success mastery course. And I've gone through everything Kevin offers. And I can tell you, you get to the higher levels and he'll reveal something,
Yeah.
and it was there at the beginning. It was there in
Yeah.
your wish is your command that's available to the public, but it's like a seed was planted, maybe something was commented on, and he expands upon it or gives you another facet to understand it. And
Well,
that's when something
it's like
unlocks.
our attention is such that if we're looking at you, you can look at the background, you can look at the shirts, you can look at your suit, you can look at the plants, you can look at all these things that our attention moves. And yet all of what you're
Yeah.
seeing is there all of the time. But you may not have noticed it until somebody points it out, like the lamp in the background or the whiteboard behind. And then somebody goes, "Oh
Yes.
gosh." And people come into workshops or Kevin's or mine or whatever, and they sit and they listen. And I always love it because Kevin talks about it. I've talked about it forever too. And that is or people buy my tape programs and stuff, and they listen, and I've listened to your program 20 times, and I just now heard this after 30 years. And I'm like, but it was there all along. And again, that
Yeah.
goes to being prepared. That goes to being open to hear. It goes back to quantum physics and spirituality and all this kind of stuff. Is the more available you are for miracles to happen, the more the miracles happen. Not because they weren't happening, but because you're able to notice them happening.
Mm. I was just going to say, how do we become more available for miracles to happen? Just by being more
By
aware,
practicing
awareness and
consciousness,
consciousness.
by playing, by allowing, by noticing, by breathing, by enjoying life.
Okay.
Most people walk around with this conversation going on in their head. It's not even a conversation, it's just a monologue that they've repeated over and over and over and over and over
Okay.
for however long. And it keeps them from noticing what's happening in the world. How often has some guy like you or me been with a beautiful woman and you can't do two things because all you can think about is, oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous. Oh my God, I wonder if she likes me. Oh, I'm such a bonehead. And maybe you have never done that, but I sure have in my past.
Yeah.
And or a woman does it to a man, or two men do it to each other, whatever. But the point is that
Sure.
it's that auditory loops, that dialogue, that monologue that's going on, that keeps us from experiencing life as it's occurring. And that's why the
Yeah.
gurus, or the mystics, or whether it's the ancient Greeks or the Eastern people or the Western mystics, whomever it might be, it's about life and the energy of life now. And the amazing thing is that the universe is expanding. And while it's
Yes. Literally, physically
expanding, it's
expanding.
also
Yeah.
collapsing. It's called entropy. And that's what goes on every single day. We move forward and something happens and it gets shaken up and you get a flat tire or your car breaks down or something. That's all part of it.
It literally happened to me this morning, Rex. I was going to the gym and I literally had a flat tire. Yeah. And my girlfriend was like, "What wonderful thing is going to happen today?" And like, and I was getting frustrated. I was doing what you would say not to do. Yeah, but I thought, who knows? Maybe something was going to go sideways. Maybe it was the universe was preventing me from getting into a car accident on the way to the gym or
this
something.
Is great. This is what we would call a reframe, and that's fantastic. The other thing you can do is simply to laugh. There's more freedom in laughter. I've said for years that people learn to laugh at their problems. They're free from their problems. Because, can I share a story? I was sitting on a bus stop in Hollywood late at night after bar when I was in my 20s, and I saw this guy staggering down the street. And so I'm watching him when this other guy is walking across the street this way. And the guy this way was impeccably dressed, looked like he'd just come from some soiree, great event. And he misstepped on a crack or something, stumbled. And he quick looks around to see if anybody had noticed, or straightens himself back up and walks down the street, right? And it's like, wow, there's nobody here but me on the bus stop. And he's the other guy's staggering down the street. He gets in front of me, right across the street from me. And he raises this bag with clearly a bottle in it. And he goes back like this and he tips all the way back and falls into this plant where all you can see out of the plant is his feet sticking up at the top. And he's lying in the back of his plant. And all of a sudden you hear, and it's just this plant shaking and laughing and vibrating. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. And the guy's trying to get out. He's just laughing and he manages to extract himself from the plant. and he walks all the way off the street just laughing, cackling. And I went, that's the guy I want to be. I want to be able to live a life like that, where his big mistake caused him nothing but raucous laughter because he's completely free. The other guy, I'm assuming, but the other guy's trying to correct and make sure that nobody saw his mishap. This guy had a major mishap and he's just cackling away. So the more we laugh, the freer we are. When you laugh, you hyperventilate. Carbon dioxide fills your system, and you're more off balance than anything. If you really have a good belly laugh, somebody can almost push you over with a finger because you don't have the control. That's how we should be living life, with that freedom. And when you're that free, that's when the money comes. That's when the romance comes. That's when the health comes. That's when all these things can be coming to you because you're not blocking them.
We learn that so many different ways. Kevin talks about that. It's teachers like Napoleon Hill talk about that. And this leads me into a question I have that I've asked Kevin. I'm going to ask you. Now, your work that you do and the talk that we've had so far is a lot about accepting and allowing and being happy in the moment, loving yourself regardless. And that almost feels like it's the opposite of getting a burning desire, like Napoleon Hill talks about, and even Kevin talks about. He says the first part of the recipe of the manifesting recipe or the creation algorithm is you got to get mad, and so how do you reconcile all of that? I know what
Well,
Kevin would say. I just want to hear, yeah, I mean, do you need to get mad at some point? Do you need to contract
I
energy to
think you
create
certainly
something?
need to be fed up with being fed up or saying, I don't want this anymore, is oftentimes the start for many people because until they get to that point, they don't do anything. If life is perfect in some ways, you never get off the couch. You just sit there and watch TV and eat bonbons. As long as you're comfortable, nothing
Yeah,
changes.
yeah.
All of our innovation as humans on the planet, or most of our innovation, has come from a problem. It was too cold, so people moved
Yep.
north, people moved south to get warm, or they created heating. If it was too hot, they moved north and
Yep.
they put on clothes or took off clothes. Uh, Almost all innovation comes from noticing something isn't working the way it could be working, or coming up with a better
Yeah.
idea. So there's nothing wrong with that. The interesting thing about it is, I'll take you back to Napoleon Hill. In the very beginning of Think and Grow Rich, you meet Edward C. Barnes. And it says Edward C. Barnes, what began as maybe a wish or a whim, became this burning hot desire to meet and put Thomas Edison on notice that he was going to be his partner. And so he said what he needed to do was to clarify what he wanted, because before he had clarified it, it was just amorphous. It was nothing. So he had to specify it. So he said, I want to meet and I want to work with, and in fact, I want to be a partner of Thomas Edison. And nobody knows how long it actually took him, but at some point, this became such a meaningful passion for him. He jumped on a freight train dressed as a hobo to get to Hoboken, New Jersey, to put him on notice. So when he got there, he got an audience and he said, I'm here to tell you this. And they said, okay, you can be a janitor. And he took the job as a janitor. And depending on which version of the book you read, it'll either say months later or 5 years later. And 5 years later, it says that all that time, he was preparing himself inside. He kept his passion alive internally, but he continued to work as a janitor. He didn't grumble. He didn't complain. He didn't go, I'm not Edison's partner. He just kept his passion alive while the
Because
outer circumstance didn't reveal what the inner desires were. And then, right. And then I should have done that before. And then he continued to prepare and continue to prepare until when an opportunity presented itself and they needed to move these dictographs. Uh, Barnes stepped up and said, I can sell them, because none of the salespeople were able to move them and didn't like them and didn't want to sell them. Barnes said, I can do it. Edison said, okay, I'll give you the chance. And as a result, he was so good at selling it, Edison made him a partner. And so it became, made by Edison, sold by Barnes. And they became partners. He retired a very wealthy man. Now, it sounds counterintuitive to everything we said, but he had this passion, he had this
yeah.
desire, but that didn't mean that he stopped being a janitor. In other words, it's for some people it's hard to hold two what seem to be opposing ideas at the same time. But in other words, he was
Yeah.
comfortable doing what he needed to do in order to have the experience of opening himself up to when the opportunity presented, he was available and ready for it. Because had he not, he could have said, screw Edison, this sucks, I don't like it, I ain't being a janitor. He could have done whatever. He could have left, and the history would have been different. But
So if you're in the right vibration, even if you're a janitor, the right
yeah,
opportunity can come along at the right
okay,
time.
so it's the people who have to prove something who go, look, yeah, I'm not a
Mhm.
janitor, I'm really Edison's partner. They lock him up. They think you're crazy because you're not. So it's like
Right.
the
Yeah.
inner work becomes the outer work becomes the inner, in other words, that from above, so below, that kind of is all,
From above, so below, as
is
within, so
all
without.
part of it, but is allowing everything to be as it is while you maintain the energetic state that you need to maintain in order to get what you want to have happen. And then the key is to not want to make it happen so badly that you interfere with it happening. You have to be able to let it go.
Someone
And the
else
reason why you
don't
let it
do.
go is because if it's yours, it comes back. that saying.
That's right.
Because if it's truly yours, you're not clutching it. If it's truly yours, if you truly own it, you don't have to desperately cling to it or desperately pursue it, because it's yours. You feel confident in already having it. You are in the state of
Right.
being that allows it to be.
Hmm.
And again, that goes back to physics. It goes
Yep.
back to energy. It goes back to spirituality.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Love it. Thank you, Rex. Before we move on, one more question about energy and about manifestation. Someone who might be watching this episode, maybe they think they've done everything right. They do the positive affirmations, they're visualizing, they're meditating, they're sitting under a tree in nature, they're doing gratitude journals, and they're listening to their success mastery course in Jin, and nothing is shifting for them. From where you sit, what might actually be going on,
You
and
ask
what can they
such
do
great
about it?
questions,
It's the
and
first
I've
thing they
loved this
should.
discussion that we're having, and we could spend days and days doing this. You attract who you are, not what you do. You attract who you are, and not all the other stuff is preparatory steps. The vision board, the affirmations. It's just like the meditating I was talking about
Yeah.
before. It's getting you ready.
Yeah.
Who you are determines what you end up with or what you have. It's and actually, if you go back and you listen, I've answered this question previously a number of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the point is that, and I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying if people listen, the point is that, and again, if you're trying to do everything right, you're saying, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not happening. You're affirming that it's not happening and that you're doing all this stuff and it still isn't happening. It becomes like the snake eating its tail. It's this infinite regress. It's a loop that people get caught up in.
Yeah.
And so they don't get anywhere. You have to stop. You have to relax. You have to surrender. You have to release and then just live and live joyously and understand that you
Mhm.
already are it. And from that place, pursue it like Barnes did. He was already Edison's partner, so he could
Mhm.
be the janitor. It's like, think about being a spy for a second and you're pretending to be something else. And that's the
Yep.
whole thing is about. You're pretending to be the janitor, but you're really James Bond. And that's what
Yep.
people miss. They're wanting to be James Bond, but they feel like the janitor. It's
Yeah. I feel like
it's
it's
the
like
other, yeah.
imposter syndrome.
And so it's really the other
Yeah.
way around.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's no
Yeah.
such thing as self sabotage. You cannot sabotage yourself. You can only do what you do at the moment you do it.
Can only do what you do at the moment you do it. Something Kevin says that likes to tell us that it sounds so much like what you just said. He says, you can't get it wrong. People are asking Kevin, like, what if I make a mistake? And what if I turn left when I should have turned right? He's like, look, at the end of the day, you can't get it wrong. You either, get where you want to go, or you learn something new and
Well, one
you
of the
get there anyway.
dumbest psychological principles that ever has come about is this notion of self sabotage. And Freud was an idiot in many ways, wonderful in many other ways. But the point to say that you have, some people use the word counterintentions, things like that, and I get it. But the point is, you're doing whatever you're doing inside or outside. That is you doing it. To say I want to do something, but I'm sabotaging myself. Does your car sabotage you? Did your flat tires sabotage you? No, it just happened, right? So you're assigning an intention to something that doesn't exist. Your brain doesn't even know how to sabotage itself. Your brain can only say yes. Your brain doesn't know how not to say yes. So if you smoke and you try to stop smoking, your brain will go, smoker, you're a smoker, you're a smoker, you're a smoker, you're a smoker, until you train your brain to, I do something different. I do something different. It can't
Yep.
understand a negative. We can say, don't think of a blue elephant. We know that you'll think of a blue elephant, but we can understand that word don't or not. If I say don't think of a white rabbit, it's too late. Your brain works in a particular
Yep.
order. It can't not do what it always does because it's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
neurowiring. So what you need to do, what we've talked about since, oh God, back in the early 80s, was, or I'm sorry, the late 80s, we started talking about growing new neural pathways, which everybody thought was ridiculous and crazy. And now everybody talks about neuroplasticity as like it's the long time for people to understand that you can change your wiring. You don't have to be a victim to your own
Yeah.
brain, but your brain will constantly serve you. It's not out to sabotage you. It's there to serve you. It can only do two
Yeah.
things. It's keep you alive and to help you procreate. Other than that, it really has no other
Yep.
purpose.
Yeah, but you have to take charge and train
Well,
it, right?
you do have
That's
to
one of the.
educate it because it's running on programs
Yep.
that are programs. And if you decide that you don't like those programs now, that's you making the decision. It's not them sabotage. It's not your brain sabotaging. It's you changing your mind.
Right.
So instead of saying
Right.
my brain sabotage, just
Yeah.
go, I choose not to live like that. I'm going to live like this and own it instead of
Yeah.
blaming it.
That's right. You got to take the wheel if you want to
Well,
get where you want to go.
exactly.
Rex, this has been a fantastic discussion. Before we go, I do want to ask you about a couple other friends of yours besides Kevin, just because I think the viewers will really like this. You mentioned that Joe Vitale, star of The Secret and one of the most recognized names in this space, was a student of yours, your NLP course back in the 90s. Tell us a little bit about
Joe reached
Joe and
out
about
to
how
me and
that came
said,
to be.
I'd like to swap materials with you. I'd like to exchange material courses or whatever. So I gave him my home study program and some other stuff, and he became a very good student of it. And in exchange, he
Okay.
used marketing materials. At that time, it was Joe, Mr. Fire, Vitale. It was all about marketing material.
I
And
remember that. Okay.
he is
What's
a
he
nice
like?
guy.
Is he a nice
We
guy?
had been friends for 35 years and hadn't met until I think early 2024 in person.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay. So just
yeah, we
correspondence.
either on the phone or through email or whatever. We've been in touch for 35 years, and we finally were at the same
Wow.
event and had a wonderful time. And so it's amazing. And he's authored more books than there are books.
Yeah, I know. He's got
Right.
a few of them under his belt. And I know Kevin knows him pretty well, and then they like and respect each
Yeah.
other. And so I thought that was great that you've met Joe, and of course, there's someone else I want to ask you about. Someone who I have had the pleasure of meeting, who Kevin's very close with. Les
Les
Brown is a
Brown
close
is
friend of
wonderful. Yeah,
yours.
Les is a huge fan of mine, and I'm a huge fan of Les's. I can say the same about Joe. We're all good friends. Les is just a delight. He is. He called. I had a health issue recently, and he just called me and said, "Can I pray with you?" And I'm like, "Oh God, of course you can." He reaches out. He touches people. He touches me. And I used to, before I met Les, I used to show his videos that he had done for PBS in workshops of mine for trainers training on how to be a public speaker, how to laugh, because he's got the most infectious laugh in the world. And so I say, I
Yeah.
go, Les, I've been sharing your work with people for all these years, and I'm so glad to count him as somebody I can count on and be a friend with. In fact, when I saw you in
What?
October, I was with Karen,
Mhm.
who you know, and we called, and she called Les
Yeah.
because we were friends, and Les was like, "Hey."
Aw. Yeah,
Yeah,
Karen's a sweetheart too. Boy, you want to talk about she's a dynamite. How did you first meet Les?
that
When
I don't
was
know.
that?
The first time I actually met him, I probably in the last 10 years and maybe longer. I don't know. I don't know if it was over my book. That wouldn't have been long enough, or over a book of his, something. But we ended up like endorsing each other on something. And then he called
Okay.
me up and said, I love your book and I want to, do a show with you on the book. So we've been doing stuff ever since.
Oh, great. That's just wonderful. What a life. What a story, Rex. Thank you so much. Do you have any for our audience, any parting words of wisdom, any recommendations, anything you'd like to commune with them about before we go?
I just think if you're working with Kevin, more power to you. You're in good hands. And if you're working with me, I think you're in good hands too. Just take it lightly. Just realize if you only have one chance to go around, make it count. And that doesn't mean how much money you have or what kind of home you have or the kind of car you drive. You can have those things, but it means how much is your life filled with joy and love and friends and kindness and generosity. The world is a rough and tumble places in many ways right now, and it's a perfect time because anytime there's tumultuous stuff in the world, it's an opportunity to awaken. It's an opportunity to learn to do things differently. We can either complain about it or we can change it, or we can complain about it, accept it, and go through it. It's like it's all good. It's just you got to realize that it is truly all good. And when it comes down to it, when you discover that, you'll go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I spent so much time thinking it was so bad because it's all really good."
Spend so much time worrying, why do that? Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rex. Where can people find you if they would like to know more
they can
about
find
you
me
and
anywhere.
look at
They
your
can search
programs?
me on the internet. They can go to rexsikes.com, REXSIKES.com. They can
Okay.
find me.
I'll
Oh,
put a
cool.
link
Yeah.
in the
They
description of
can
the
find
video
me in
so
my
people can click on that.
programs. They can find me on social media. They can find me in the movies. I mean, they can find me in different places. And if they do, tell them to say, hey, I'm one of David's friends, because that would be really cool.
Thank you so much, Rex. Thank you so much for being with us today. For everyone watching, more to come, more interviews to come. Make sure that you click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you find out when more David Krueger videos are coming. This has been David Krueger and Rex Sikes. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.